Good day, everyone. I am Ahmed Yahya from Team 24, and we'll be presenting our project for the digital system design. So first off, we know that everyone has struggled through this past year since the upcoming of the virus COVID-19. And all doctors, nurses, and medical employees have fought bravely, making sure that every patient would make it through or survive such a pandemic. Now, we also know that all hospitals around the world have been admitting patients non-stop, constantly for months now, and it's pretty hard to think how they handle such pressure. So when we asked the question, what could help or facilitate such an issue, first thing that came to mind were the emergency rooms. So if you think about it, the constant admission or the constant admitting of patients in a hospital means that the hospital's emergency rooms may run out of capacity, or the capacity may reach its limit. So an efficient way of finding the nearest emergency room or the nearest free emergency room with the shortest or the quickest route would be in automating the hospital's carts or beds. In a way that, yes, automating the carts or beds in a way that it could directly follow along a line that leads to such a room. And that's what we did. We call it the AEC or the AEB, the automated emergency cart or the automated emergency bed. So instead of searching this cart or bed, just directly follows along a line that leads to the nearest empty room, saving tremendous time and energy. Now, this cart uses simple parts such as the line trackers, the proximity sensors, the motors, and the motors drivers. And they all become extremely useful once they're all calibrated together. And now for the code, the implementation, and the connections, I'm going to have to present my colleagues.
So hi, my name is Shihab Suleiman. I'm going to show you the prototype of the car that my colleague just mentioned earlier. So let's have a look. So this is a car. It consists of an acrylic car basically with two wheels and a caster ball. And of course, as you can see, the components are on all sides of the car. Let's take a look on them one by one. We will start first by the bottom, where we can observe that our line tracker, or the advanced line tracker kit here, is below the car, so it can see exactly where the line is. Our two motors to operate these two wheels, and the caster wall to keep the car in balance. In the middle, so after dismantling the top layer of the car, we can observe that here's the middle layer of the car. It consists of a plus minus, or the electricity supply bit of a breadboard to basically supply electricity and ground units for all our components here. We can see here's the battery. My colleague will explain why we need an external battery other than this one here. Also, we have our proximity sensor. It's an IR sensor to see if there's an object in our path. And here's all these couple of wires or jumpers here are the output of our line tracker that we've seen at the bottom of the car. And finally, in the top layer, we can see our last two components, which are the H-bridge driver for our whole operation here, and of course the FPGA that we need to control every output and input. My colleague will further explain how these connections were made to achieve the success of our vehicle. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Mohammed Funbul from Team 24, and I'll be talking with you about the software and the code used in our project. It's a pretty simple code, as you will see below. First off, we get a 5-bit input signal from our line tracker. Second, we get a 1-bit input signal from our proximity sensor. And we've actually created a signal to control the amount of time the motors are working, and we will discuss this below. And we have 4 output signals, 2 for each motor, right and left. And for each motor, One signal is concerned with it spinning clockwise, and the other is concerned with it spinning counterclockwise. So basically making the wheel move forwards and backwards. Moving on, we move to our structure. It's a pretty easy structure. We have a process. We start off by a process that triggers when either the input from our line tracker or the input from our proximity sensor changes. First off, we check if our proximity sensor is sensing something or if it's not. So if our proximity sensor is sensing something in its vicinity, it sends a 0. If it is not sensing anything, it sends a 1. So if it is not and sends a 1, we can move on with our code. If it is not sensing, if it is sensing something, then we just tell the car to stop by setting its outputs, all of the outputs controlling it from this motor, from the driver motor to 0. Second, after checking for the proximity sensor, we check for our signal that we created. If it is equal to 1, then we set it to 0 and we move on with our code. If it is not equal to 1, then we just set it to 1 and not do anything, basically skipping a clock cycle, so having the amount of time the motors are working and decreasing the speed of the car. So after checking for the proximity sensor and the clock signal we created and making sure the proximity sensor is not sensing anything and the clock cycle is equal to 1, we start with our code. It's a pretty simple code. It's just a case statement that is dependent on the input from our line tracker. First statement is concerned with the car turning towards the left. So the line tracker is sensing the line in its leftmost sensor or two of its leftmost sensors, basically telling us that the line is curving towards the left. So what we do is we set the outputs for our left motor to 0 to make it stop, and the outputs for our right motor to 1, just the one concerned with it moving forwards, to make the wheel go forward. So one wheel is stopping and the other is moving forwards, basically creating a left turn. The other case is the exact opposite, so the line is curving towards the right and the sensor is sensing it in its rightmost or two of its rightmost sensors. So we do the exact opposite. We set the output concerned with the left motor moving forwards to 1 and the right motors and all of the right motors outputs to 0 to make it stop. So the right wheel stops and the left wheel moves forward, basically creating a right turn. The third case, is concerned with our car sensing the line in its middle, so the car moving forwards. And what we do is we have a lot of cases. So maybe the line is a bit thick, so it's sensing 3 in its rightmost or leftmost, or maybe the line is a bit thin, so it's sensing the line in the not the rightmost, but the one before last sensor, or the one before last sensor in the left side. And what we do is we make the car move forward by setting the output concerned with the left motor moving forward to 1 and the right motor moving forward to 1. And the last case is a safety case. So if the car is not in any of these cases, so maybe the line sensor is not sensing anything, so the car should stop. And we do that by just setting all the outputs of all the motors to 0 to make them stop. It's more of a safety case and is responsible for the car moving when not seeing any line. Not moving when not seeing any line. That's it. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Mahmoud Hisham and I'm here to talk about one of the problems we faced in our project. Is that we had a balancing issue with our car. We had two motors in the middle, two sensors in the front, and only a caster ball at the back. So we needed to put some extra weight at the back to balance things off. And for that we use extra batteries, just as dead weight, and that solved the issue. Here comes our end of video. Thank you.